1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good morning, and once again, welcome to Dr. Bill Speaks. Today we will be discussing part 3 of the belief system. If you have not seen part 1 or part 2, you can go to my YouTube page and you can catch up because I don't want to lose you with part 3. Okay, we're getting deeper into what this belief system is and how it prevents us from being able to continue the spiritual growth that we all really want. So let's get started. I want to talk about in part 1. We talked about the belief system foundation for words. It's just simple words. And words we define as being symbols that bring to our mind particular ideas, thoughts, people, persons, places, things. Now, the word itself is not the chair, and what's in our mind is not the chair. The word symbolizes a chair, and what's in our mind symbolizes a chair based on our own particular experiences. Now, the chair, say, if you just say chair, you're going to get a chair. If you're on death row, it has a horrifying meaning. But if you're at the thrift store, it could mean that you got more junk for your house. Okay? See, so let's understand then that our symbolism has contextual meaning, and that contextual meaning is built upon by how we interact with our environment. Now, the belief system is built based on the interaction of environment with us attempting to fulfill our survival needs and our comfort, the things that we need and the things that we want. So as we journey through the world, we find that our environment will play a part in supplying our needs and our wants, but there's always a catch. Let's look at a little more of that today. As we looked at the belief system earlier, we looked at how the part the family played from the time that we were born in terms of a system of reward and punishment. Now, the rewards and punishment varies and differs from family to family. But not only that, it varied based on what each particular family value, how they see interacting with the world around them. In my dissertation, I talked about a concept called the family filter. Now, the family filter I looked at as being the ways that the majority of a family value certain things and how the system values produce a certain outcome. For an example, a family that has been gamblers, then the children come around seeking their needs and comforts will use gambling. Families who utilize substances, they would produce a lot of members in their family that use or abuse substances. If you see one, you see a lot of religion pastors. They have pre-Ks, preacher kids. They usually end up being a preacher, a director of a choir or something similar. And so on, so forth and so on. So that is the basis of how a belief system starts. But as we come into the real world, past our family, we run into institutions. And these institutions also play a part and how we are socialized and how we come to believe what we believe. I know oftentimes we think that, our opinions and our thoughts are from somewhere deep inside of us. No, they're from the symbolism, that symbolic group of language that's in our minds, and that we either accept or reject parts of it or some of it or all of it. Let me give you a good example. Walk with me for a moment as we take a walk down history. The biggest ripoff ever pulled against humankind, the biggest scam, the biggest injustice ever pulled against people was when the first person roped off something and said, "This is mine." You see, what that person had roped off and called his own became his private property. The problem with that was that prior to him roping it off and calling it his own, everybody had equal access to everything. There was no private ownership of the means of production. And by the means of production, I mean those things that are necessary to provide for our survival and our comfort. So if I roped off a particular farm area, and in that area, it contained all the things that were needed to provide food, etc., for families, then all of a sudden, I control the destiny of families. Now, me roping it off don't mean that it's really mine, but if I can convince you that it's mine, then I have control over the means of production and over your labor. You see, when I rope off something to say it's mine, I have more than I need. This is the beginning of greed. I have more than I need. Some things begin to rot and go to waste. But I also have created a conflict with people who are used to being able to say, well, this is as much mine as it is yours. So here we have the beginning of conflict and the beginning of greed. So now how do we resolve this conflict? Well, first of all, if I've roped off something to say it's mine, I'm not going to give it up. But what I will do is find some allies. If I can find some fighters, say, well, look, I'm going to make you sheriff over here in my stuff. And your job is to keep all the people from stealing my stuff. Never mind that I just pulled the biggest grand theft in the world by roping it off and taking what was everybody's in the beginning, and I took it for me. That was the absolute first grand theft. Now, the people who are coming over to get food, like they've always done, then we've got to punish them. See, reward and punishment is working there. See, we reward the sheriff that I just appointed and the deputies that he appointed by giving them some of the surplus goods. But now that person who is not part of that and just needs for his babies and his family food, if they come across and we catch up him, we punish him. We cut his hands off. And that way it teaches everybody else, oh, you can't get caught going over there and stealing his stuff. All of a sudden we've got a new idea now that if you come to the stuff that I stole and try to get it from me, you are guilty of stealing. I'm not, but you are. You're guilty of stealing. So now I've got to convince you that I have the authority to take ownership of this and the authority to punish you. And the way that I do that is by doing it the way that it's been done all throughout history. I have to convince you that God said it's mine. Even today we have nations such as Israel who say that well, God gave us this property for ours forever. So we have the right to defend it and kill all the Palestinians we need to come try to take back what God has given us. But at the same time, they have a Bible that says God, no one has ever seen God. So there's a big contradiction there. But we know what this is. When we go back and look at the history, children of Israel were the weakest group of people in the Middle East. So they had to devise a way of acquiring things and holding on to things that did not require fighting, because every time they tried to fight, they got defeated. So they created this God that gave them the land. And anybody who come to get this land will create a major sin. Oh yeah, they had that thing put together. See, so we got two things here. We got, first of all, if I rope something off and call it mine, that become an economic system. See, because in order for people to get what they need, they got to come to me. And when you come to me, call me king. And these people here, my children, they're prince and princess. Now, if you got a pretty daughter, you lucky, one of my princes marry her, and that'll give you undue access to some of the means of production, some of the goods that you need. But a system, an economic system developed of the haves and the have-nots. I have it. But how do I have it? I have it by virtue of the fact that I have taught you to believe that I have the authority to have it. No one owned God's world. No one made it, created it, but no one, it doesn't belong to anyone. As a matter of fact, it's not even real. But that's for another discussion. But even today, young boys are killing each other, fighting over, quote, turf. Quote, turf. Turf is a part of this whole world that they want to rope off and say it's theirs. And they believe that that's okay because the same belief system has been taught for millions of years. And we have come to accept the validity of it. That if I claim that this is mine, then it's mine. And if those people with different color come over and say it's theirs, then we have the right to kill them or punish them. Nobody has that right. No, that's right. But our belief system convinces us that we do. But now, not only that, but even in our political system. So what we do, we say, well, you can't get this. If you come to steal this from me, you have broken the law. So my response is, the law, what's that? Oh, these guys over here, they sit down. I call them my congressmen. They sit down and they came up with a law that protects my goods from me from you. Now the fact that I stole it, it's all right because they share it, and I give them a little bit to make the laws the way I want them to. But if you disrupt it, then you become an outlaw. And we got something for you. We don't cut off your hands no more. We'll lock you up. Because when I lock you up, then you can produce for, equipment and desk and chair for the society. And the cost of it don't have to come out of my money. See, because that way I don't have to pay taxes, only you. See, so the whole political system then becomes about protecting the haves from the have-nots. In the education system. Like right now in the state of Florida, the education system is under attack because they're teaching people to think. They're teaching people that, no, this is not true. No, nobody has the authority to own. No, this is unjust. They're teaching people justice. And of course, people are saying, oh, they're waking up. We got to stop this waking up because those who are woke will create a problem for them. Look at what that one did back there. What's his name? That MLK guy. We had to get rid of him. That Malcolm guy, we had to get rid of him. and all those others, Mega Evan, all of them, who decide to wake up from this dream, we will do something to them. We don't want them in prison because they recruit in prison. Yeah. So what we would do, we would take care of them. And then there was that one long time ago. I thought we made an example from him. That Jesus boy. Kind of wake people up. Talking about do not condemn, all that foolishness that he was talking. He was trying to take our stuff. Talking about he was of God. Well, we had the religious people to kill him. We showed him. See, so our education system is teaching us this language that we need in our heads to become part of our belief system. And this language is full of words that will turn us around from the God that we say we believe in. Words that will say shame and guilt and sin, and teaching us how to use those words, but teaching us that some things are good and some things are bad. You see, in the belief system is a dualistic system. It has opposite tendencies. It got that up and down, good or bad, right or wrong. I know I said one time that right or wrong was nothing but an overworked myth sprung into life by social fits. You need to right and wrong because they walk side by side. And you're never wrong as long as love and companion for others be your guide. Well, in the belief system, that's just not true. Like the right and wrong, are a continuum between the right and the wrong. And in that continuum, anybody may come at any point along that line there, and a point along that continuum. And at whatever point that you come, and that you believe you may be different at this point than someone at this point, and y'all may believe different things, but then you will have an opinion that this one is right and this one is wrong, or this one is right and this one is wrong. But these opinions are no more than a statement of where we are along a continuum of dualistic understanding of particular concepts. It's not right nor wrong. It's no good or bad. It's whatever protects and serves the ruling people. Whatever protects, the means of production so there won't be an equitable distribution of goods. Whatever keep a class of people poor so that they can compete for low-paying jobs, so that those who claim to own everything, can continue to accumulate. Now they teach you that, you're lazy if you don't work. You got to get up every morning at 5 o'clock and get ready to come out on the job that you hate, and you got to produce. Productivity is the key to this system. If you can no longer produce, then you're no longer useful for the system. This is why the elderly like myself, like I found out, that if you can't produce, then you're given a small pittance called Social Security to live on, and you can't get anything on it. If you want to live, what they call middle class, and that's where we give you a little more than I give the rest in order for you to keep our system going. If you want to live there, then you got to be a productive person. You got to produce. If you can't produce, then for as we're concerned, you don't deserve to live. So Medicare, no, you don't get no medical food, no medical. If you got to trade food for medicine, that's okay. Just die. That's the reality of the belief system in which we find ourselves. So you see, the institutions, the economic system, the political system, educational system, and the religion are all geared toward the same thing, protecting the existing status quo. I know for myself, having been a pastor for a long time, thought that change could be made, but then I realized that even in that system, as long as I was in that system, that's the system that I was a part of in terms of the church that I was a part of, didn't really want change. They wanted to keep the bishops and keep the people, the poor people poor, and small black churches small, and no help. But that's another story. But that's my own experience with dealing with the ruling class. Now, the problem with the way things are going is that our desires and our needs being fulfilled by a corrupt system of beliefs, becomes our self-will. Everything we do, every time we try to get ahead, it's about self-will. We have a language system, and the language system is the system of belief that has a comparison. It could be more. It's always, whatever we got, we always encourage to get more. If you got a house that you live in, it's never good enough. You got to get bigger. And then you want to get the best. So you got to keep making more. You got to keep producing. You got to keep earning. You got to keep making more. So there is, if there's a political party that say, well, let's share the wealth. No, we got to get rid of them. That's a conflict. So that conflict, nothing ever is ever resolved. So we end up staying in the same place. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Every institution is geared toward maintaining the belief system. And the belief system whole purpose is to protect the owners and rulers of this world. Not salvation, has nothing to do with justice. It is the most unjust system there is. But we have been taught in our education, in our bachelors and masters, that our system is the best in the world. You need to travel. You need to learn that this is the most corrupt system of beliefs. But now understand something. I'm not saying that other systems of beliefs are better, because they're not. All systems of belief are just as corrupt. Like for a long time, they kept talking about the difference between capitalism and communism. Well, there's not a nickel worth of difference between the two. Neither one, provide for the masses. Neither one lift the poor and unjust. Neither one of them opens up the prisons and make people whole. Neither one is about healing. Each one of them is about who is in control. Well, we're going to talk more about that on our next thing. We will talk about how these institutions controls our thoughts and behavior, and that'll be in part 4. And in part 5, we'll talk about transitioning out of the belief system into the kingdom of God. Now, these DVDs are not for people who don't want to change. These DVDs are for people who are seeking a higher ground, who want a spiritual journey in their lives. And no matter how hard they've tried it in churches, they've tried it at home, they've tried it in art, but they can't seem to find the answer. Well, after we finish with the belief system, then we will go into the spiritual system and begin to seek Adam. So hang around. If you like what you see, push like, push subscribe, and go to my YouTube page. This is Dr. Bill speaking, and you have a God-blessed day, and amen.